Hello everyone and welcome to a new Let's Try series for Big Pharma. Big Pharma is a really nice little puzzle business simulation game, and it's developed by Twice Circled and published by Positech Games, who published one of my favourite all-time games, which is Democracy 3, and we'll definitely have a series on that quite soon. So Big Pharma was released in late August this year, so it hasn't been out for too long. I did follow it in the development stages for quite a long time and been looking forward to this one for a long time. So basically you might be wondering what the game is or what the hell is going on right here now. So basically what it is you're in charge of a pharmaceutical company. And you go through and you research ingredients. So we come in here, we've got a whole bunch of ingredients, and your job is to put out a whole bunch of new drugs. And they come all different types of ranges, antibiotics and painkillers and asthma and bronchitis and everything. Pretty much anything you can think of is here. So what I thought we'd do is this is sort of just a sample game of what I've been played before and what I've spent a few hours on working through, and sort of just shows you the what you can sort of get to. And this is really quite early into the game, so if you have a look at our objectives here, we've still only got basically half the time remaining, so we're only a little way into the game. So what I thought we'd do is just jump out of this for a minute, and we'll start a quick new game, and might just start on beginner and just make it nice and easy for myself so I don't embarrass myself. And we'll just run through and I'll just show you sort of, step you through the game and show you what it's all about and give you an idea of what it's like and whether you'd like to give it a try. So what we can see here is we've got 10 years remaining. We have to earn $1 million in revenue for just sort of the standard completion. If you want to go any higher than that, we sort of get up to 10 million for the master rank. And what we do to start with, if we come in here and have a look, we've got a couple of ingredients. A couple of ingredients that you start out with, and these are basically randomised every game, so you never really know what you're going to get. These ones are pretty decent at the moment. We're actually going to go with, so basically what happens here is the green ones are actually sort of the cure, and the red ones are side effects here. So you want to avoid the side effects if at all possible. And these little highlighted circles or little squares, rectangles here, are basically the strength that the drug starts or the ingredient starts at. And basically what you've got to do on the production line down here, to get out to here, is you've got to run your ingredients through a bunch of different machines to increase or decrease the concentration of your drugs. And then later on as well, once you get into it, you can sort of remove side effects and mix and match different drugs to get different cures. And you've got to then release that into a drug and get that out into the market and try and make some money. So on this beginning setting, we've only got one competitor, and they shouldn't be too much trouble for this one. So what we're going to do is actually going to set up this one right here now. Actually, are we going to do that? Yes, we are, I think. So we're going to set up this one here, and we're going to import our new ingredient here. So what we want to do, we want to get our little range down into this green area at the moment. So we don't actually know the best concentration yet. So it could be anywhere. So we've got the little pop-up there, active range is 6 to 13. So we don't actually know where in that range is sort of the prime spot to get. So we won't be able to work that out for a little while. So it's a little bit of trial and error at the moment. So what we're going to do is import there, and we want to chop this down. So we're going to get at least 2 down. So what we're going to do is actually going to run it through a dissolver, so it's got decreases concentration. So this is sort of where the like the puzzle aspect comes into it. So it's a little bit of a mix and match and trying to get the right concentration and have your machines move around. So what I thought we'd do is actually run that through like this, and run that around there, and then just run that straight out here. And that for this one, actually no, that's a bad mistake. What we've got to do then is run it through pill printers. So what these are, we can just chuck a couple down. No, it's not going to work. Then you've got to basically, once you've got your ideal drug, what you do then is chuck it through a couple of pill printers to make your actual pills. We're going to do that. So do that one there. Nope, there, and then run it through into here. And if you run the game through now, and we'll run it up onto the highest speed, So we see our ingredient coming through here, comes through the dissolver, drops the concentration, and again, and again, and you can actually follow your progress here. So now, see now we've got this highlighted section here. It shows that this is actually active. So this is actually going to cure what it says it does. So it's actually going to soothe cough, or soothe coughs, and that should be active at the moment. So we actually dropped it down to concentration of, what are we there at the moment? Must be 12. So here we go. We have our pills coming through, and we've got to name this one. So we've called it the Hadron Cough Catcher, which is pretty good for me. And we're just going to name that one and send it through. And here we have, we're starting to make lots of money. So we've got our pill coming out. Fantastic. Now if we jump into the company here, this is sort of the area that we can see. We can actually see how our drug's doing. So actually sort of at this early stage, it looks like we've actually hit, sort of by luck, the prime spot. So we've actually got total administered 12 and 12 coughs soothed. Which is a really good result. So 17, 15, it might be a little bit off, but it's pretty good anyway. Actually, it's a pretty good start. Then you actually get ratings here. So the better your drug is, the higher the rating. And then things like negative side effects lower your rating. And basically what a rating does is it makes your drug, like it has their drug value plus 5%. So it basically means you get a little bit more money. And if you drop your drug, if you get a really bad rating, like it might get down to like negative 20%, it's going to cut out a lot of your profit. So it's in your best interests most of the time to get the right drug concentration. Some of the big challenge comes in later on in how much you actually want to invest into your drugs, and whether you actually want to spend a little bit more money to run it through a machine, which costs money. So each of these machines actually costs money. So it's actually got their process cost is $10. So every time our drug comes through this machine, it costs us $10. So when our ingredient starts out here, it's got plus $119. So this basically says that at the moment, if it soothes a cough, we get $118 now. And every time we run it through, it drops again. So if you look at this one, it's down. So we've had raw material costs of $35, processing costs $10, and we get now a profit of $45. And by the time we get out to here, we're actually out to, so you actually see, you won't actually get, so for this first one, because it's not actually doing anything, we're actually getting no profit whatsoever because it's not actually doing what it should do. It's not until we get to here, it actually is sort of this side effect or this treatment has become active, and then we actually start getting a profit here. And then from that point, any time that we drop it down, we're actually losing profit there. So it's down to 50 because we have to run it through again, and then we're actually up to 63. So pill printers themselves, it says increases combined value by $20. So actually, when running it through a pill press or a pill printer, actually increases your profit a little bit. So that's sort of us starting there. We're making a little bit of money, which is great. We've got some notifications up here that our competitors released some products. They don't always, so in this case it looks like they haven't got the same ingredients as us. So they're actually releasing different drugs, which is not always a bad thing. So you can see their drugs here. And we're actually releasing ours up to a B rating, which is really quite good. I think it's probably going to get up to an A rating quite soon, which will be good for us. It should be a plus 20% value, which will make us a nice bit of money there. So you've actually got, if you look down here on this left hand side, we've actually got sort of our cash on hand, and then this bottom figure down here is our sort of daily cash flow. So each sort of tick of the game is a day, or each sort of each movement of this sort of signifies a day. So this is our daily cash flow down here. So what we might do, if you jump into the cures screen over here, we can actually look at what cures we can actually make based on the ingredients that we have. And what we're going to do now that we've set up our first drug, we're actually going to hire an explorer. So for $5,000, and then we can come down here to our undiscovered ingredients, and we can actually send our explorer out into the wilderness, where they're probably going to get eaten by snakes and bears and God knows what else, and actually get some new ingredients for us. And new ingredients will mean that we'll be able to develop new drugs, and new drugs equals more money, and money is what this game is all about. And so we're going to send them out here, and they're going to go looking at initial reports suggest we may find an ingredient with applications within blood medication, which should be quite interesting for us. So we're going to have a look out here, ingredients at the moment, so we can have our soothes cough, I can't really say, that's terrible. ingredient and our antihistamine over here. And then see if you've got these green ones are the initial treatments. These blue ones down here, these are the next level of treatments, and there is actually a third level under these as well. And basically, the more, the further down you go, the more expensive the drug gets, and therefore, in theory, the more money that you get. So you can see that, to start with, our Soothes Cough drug is $112. That's sort of like its base value, our drug. And then once we get down to Eases Asthma, it's actually up to $279 per drug. So that is quite good. But the only downside to that is it's generally more involved. So you have to run it through a lot more machines. And so this actually, the agglomerator, we actually don't have access to that yet. So we have to run into our research screen. And the agglomerator here is here. So I'm actually going to hire a researcher for $1,000 and put them into researching that. We're actually going to hire another one as well. I'm just going to play this game before and put it into the ionizer. So they'll get into that and it'll be ready in 3 months. So what we're going to do, we can actually, we've got our antihistamine ingredients over here. We can actually go down to the alleviates insomnia cure over this way. But the problem was, so we're going to do it. It's going to be a concentration of 4 to 6, and then once you reach that concentration, so basically we've got our ingredient here, and then once we reach this concentration, then we've got to run it through a dissolver, and that will then transform it into this drug. So it's sort of a specific defined series of steps or process that you've got to follow to get down to this next level. So what we're going to look at now is, so this is our antihistamine drug. And if you sort of mouse over here, it says upgrade to alleviates insomnia. Pre-requirements 4 to 6 concentrations. That's first. So it's currently at a concentration of, you see this little this blue square or this blue icon here. It's a concentration of 9. So we've got to drop it, drop the concentration of this drug 3, then run it through a dissolver, and then it will transform into an alleviates insomnia drug. And then from there we might have to do something from there as well. So you can sort of see that it's not always sort of just a no-brainer to upgrade a drug, because it depends on how many steps you have to get through. And also, even if, because we've got courses, pins and needles, this is quite a big range, so probably no matter what we do, we're going to have a side effect, which is side effects generally are quite frowned upon and can lower the effectiveness of your drug and the rating of your drug. But not always. I mean, later on we can actually remove these, and we don't actually know, like I mentioned before, where the actual sort of the prime point or the middle point or of this side effect is. So it could be anywhere in here. And the further, like so for example, if it was in the middle, if this was actually the highest concentration, or the further away from that we get, the less effective this, or less impact this side effect will do. So but if we happen to hit upon the actual high concentration, then every alleviates insomnia drug that we give out, or the antihistamine, depending on what we've transformed it into, will cause pins and needles, which is going to be a very negative on our impact on our drug rating. So our drug rating here is up to B+, so it's good. It's really quite effective. Over 90% effective, and so it's up to a B+. Look down here at our competitors, we've got our cure rating there as a D and D-, so their drug probably isn't that effective, and they're getting a lot of side effects as well. So this is actually the same ingredient, the antihistamine ingredient, so they've actually got that one, but they haven't gone into the insomnia drug yet. So that would be a good opportunity for us to get into this drug before they do. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to look at transforming this into an alleviates insomnia drug. So what we're going to do, we don't have enough space at the moment, so we're going to buy some new space. We might actually, probably spare one over here, but we might actually save that for later. So I think we're going to buy this one. We're going to import our drug here. And a lot of this sort of game is coming down to planning about how you're actually going to plan your production lines, getting enough space, and you can only import and export from these ports, and you can't add these ports in. So these ports are predefined, and you can't add any more in. So that sort of adds a big challenge level to the game about what you can import and export. So we're actually going to import our antihistamine drug here, and we're going to have to drop it 3, so it's 9. We've got to get down to a concentration of 6. So what we're going to do here now, and might run it there to start with. It's there, and there. So we go there and there to there. So you can just see this is sort of this is where the drug comes in, and this is where the drug comes out. So the green arrow comes in and the red comes out. So you've got to basically line up all these machines, all these entry and exit points as much as possible. So we've got it down. This will get it down to a concentration of 6. So it says 9. This will be 8, 7, and then 6. And then as we see in here, we've got to get down to the concentration of 4 to 6, which we've done, and then we've got to run it through a dissolver to upgrade the drug. So we run it through a dissolver again. So we might actually use this one and go there. And then by the time it comes out here, we should have an alleviates insomnia drug, and we'll be able to see actually sort of what range the alleviates insomnia drug is, and if we, what else we have to do to get to that point that we actually then we can export it out. Didn't want to do that, so we go back. So losing a bit of money here because we've got these machines running through that actually aren't getting us anything at the moment. So here's our drug that's actually running through all these machines, and it's converted into and alleviates insomnia. So we've actually got it now, and this isn't good for us, but that's okay. We've got to increase this at 5. We've got to get up another 7. So we've got to get up to an active range is 12 to 17. Currently at 5, we've got to get up to a 7. So we're going to have to run it through 7 different machines, which is going to be very expensive for us. So later on, see, this increases concentration by 1. Once we get the agglomerator, it actually increases concentration by 3. But the downside is that actually process cost is $10 per one. So in other words, if you've got 3, the process cost will be 30, but this process cost, even though it increases it by 3 in one machine, will actually be higher than 30. So it's actually more expensive, but it saves more space. So that's sort of another sort of decision that you've got to make later on in the game. So what we've got to do, we've got to run it through 7 different machines of these. So what we might do is go there and there. It's 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and 7, and then we should have enough room just for our pill printing machines up here. So what we're going to do there, hook all these up, run that into there, run that into there, and then set up a couple of pill printers, there and there, and there, and there, and then set them up in to be exported. So if we let the game run through, then once this is all done, it starts this increasing concentration of our drug each time. So 8 and 9 and then 10. And then once it sort of, as I mentioned before, gets into the active range, you're actually going to see how much profit you're actually going to make from our drug. So now as you will see, you're going to make $125 per pill. So the problem that we might come across here is we actually don't know how effective our drug's going to be, and we're still going to have a side effect. So we name our drug here, the Hadron Sleep More. I don't mind that, so we'll go over there. We'll have to let it run for a little while, and we'll see how we're going. What we actually might do later on, once we get the agglomerator, we might actually replace a couple of these with 1 or 2 agglomerators, just to sort of have more of a concentration, and actually move this concentration range up and outside this side effect range. So this active range is 3, 14. So if we move our drug range here up to 15, this side effect will no longer be active, which will be good. But the downside of that is this point where we're at here actually might be the most effective point. So that's sort of a trade-off that you've got to look at making. So come over to our drug here. We've got 25 administered, 16 good night's sleep, and 8 attacks of pins and needles. So it's probably a little bit of a mid-range at the moment, 30 and 20 and 9 side effects. So it's not too bad actually. You might actually not even leave it. So that's sort of something that you have to look at, making a decision on about whether it's actually worth investing more in machines and processing time into your drugs, which is going to lower the cost. Or lower your profit margin at the effect of making your drug a little bit better. So a lot of the time you're actually better off making, having your drug not quite as effective as what it could be, because you're going to make more money. So which is really quite a bit of a damning indictment on the pharmaceutical industry, but that's how it works. It's all about money. So we've got a new ingredient discovered, and it relieves hypertension but we have the side effect of causing fatigue. And if we upgrade this one, upgrades to treats angina, which could be quite good, but we do need an ionizer there as well. So we've only actually got to drop this concentration down 1 to actually make this drug effective, which means it should be quite profitable, but again, we're going to have a side effect here. So we'll look at that in a moment. Our competitor has released another drug, and they've introduced a alleviates insomnia drug as well. So this is sort of another. I'll just jump into ingredients here, no cures. Here we go. So you actually have a look at here. So if we've got our alleviates insomnia drug, we've actually got 96% net demand. So we've got 1,445 people who are seeking this drug, and we've got the number that is supplied, and then we've got the number that actually permanently cured. So then you've got this saturation level here. So basically, if you and your competitors oversaturate the market, you provide too many drugs for this amount, the demand will drop, and therefore the value of your drug will also drop. So what can happen? Sometimes, a lot of the time, actually, you'll find your competitor will actually mass produce certain drugs and basically try and price you out of the market. So he comes in and actually produces a huge amount of alleviates insomnia drug, even though his drugs may not be as good as mine. My actual profit margin will actually suffer because we will oversaturate the market, and the demand will drop, and therefore the value will drop. So it's got here net demand, how much people want a cure determines cure value. So that's really something to sort of keep in mind, and this amount here will also drop as well. And you actually see this bar up here, so this is sort of net demand up here. So if this keeps dropping, or this is actually price, sorry, this is actually the price. So the price keeps dropping, we're going to be making less money. So, and that's sort of once you get down later on into the more expensive or the more profitable cures, you may actually want to look at sort of dropping some of your old product lines and replacing them with, sort of more profitable ones. So we do have some cash flow, sort of basic, profit and loss statement here on the right hand side. So it's our revenue, our profit, our operating margin, which is quite low at the moment. That will increase over time. Profit and what we spent on explorers and scientists. So some new research and new drugs. And you actually see that for our competitors as well. So it's a really good place to keep track of what your competitors are doing, especially how much they are spending on explorers and scientists. So they're spending a lot more on scientists. It means that they're going to advance up the research tree far more quickly than you are, and that could spell a problem if they can get more advanced drugs, more advanced delivery systems. Then they could be sort of get ahead of the curve. So that's something to keep an eye on. So this video has been running for 20 minutes at the moment. And that's pretty much everything I wanted to cover at the moment. So hopefully you've gotten a good idea about what Big Pharma is all about. So like you can see, it is really cool. I love the art style on this one. It's brilliant. These little people just at their little stations doing their thing, and the art style on this one's really good. And it can seem quite sort of confusing, overwhelming to start with. But once you sort of get your head around the mechanics, and it really is quite fun, and you can spend a long time just trying to maximize your production lines as much as possible and make them space efficient as possible and get the most bang for your buck. And especially when you're up to the hard difficulty as well, your competitors can be really quite challenging, and they can do some really good things. So you've always sort of got to keep on your toes about what's happening. So we just had some research here, but I might actually finish the episode here. And if you guys think you'd like a Let's Try series, or Let's Play series, sorry, like a full series with Big Pharma, just let me know in the comments, and I'll see what I can do. But for now, I'll see you guys later.